Out there and see that we have some visitors for public comment. So welcome to the Arts Commission meeting. And we're going to start with Phil Harvey. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to do roll before we do that. We usually don't have any visitors. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moore,
Present.
Commissioner Conrad,
Present.
Chair Golden,
Here.
Commissioner Hirsch.
Here.
Commissioners Harmon and Stinsmeal and Amond are absent tonight, as is Vice Chair Addison.
Yes. And now we can move along to presentations. And we will start with you. So, Phil.
Oh, do I need the microphone?
And we'll start with you, Phil Harvey.
I don't think I need the microphone, do I?
I have been
Yes, please.
cued that I
yes,
have to
please,
press
okay.
this button
All right,
so
here
that
it
it'll
is.
go into the television. So when you speak, be sure you press this button and then press it off when you're done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you tell me something?
That was for us.
Oh, for you. Well, I just have to tell you, I had the most delightful September and October 2013 that I've had for many September, Octobers. I had this wonderful call from my dear friend Myrna Kabyanica, and she said, guess what, Phil? We're going to do a show of your for your photography, for your wonderful pieces of work, of artwork at the City Hall. I said, we are? Whoa, that was pretty exciting. And then I found out that Roger was going to be setting it up and everything, and like that. Then I met Christine, and I knew that we were going to have a roll. We were going to have a wonderful time. And I have been selling these Mystique of Ojai booklets, postcard booklets. They're all over the world. They're in Japan. One year, Villanova bought 500 of them to send to all their Chinese and all their the constituents, their clients, all over the world. So I know this has been around. But I wanted to just make sure that all of you had a copy of this, because for me it's been really it's a very good showing of the things I've done, even before before we had a lot of history in Ojai, and up to some really interesting shots that are like I told Barbara and Myrna and Mimi. Some of these shots are no longer available at all. They either have buildings in front of them, or it's been changed. The shots of the Ojai Tower, now you can't get that kind of a shot because there are trees in front of it and also other things wrong. Anyway, I want to make sure that each of you gets a copy of the Mystique of Ojai booklet.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for as a group, really, in having me come forward and do this, because it was...
Well, Phil, you've done so much for the community, and your photography is really so fantastic, and also what you've done with the community choir.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you're really a very special person in this community. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Well, it's really... And here's 3 extra ones for any...
Yeah, we have a couple more
Barbara can-
people.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks again. I really appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Phil.
And as I say, the City Hall has been around here for so long, and I've enjoyed it myself for a long time. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was an honor to have you. Next, we have Nicholas Olsberg.
Hello. I'm Nicholas Olsberg. I'm the former director of the Canadian Centre for Architecture in Montreal and was the founder of the special collections at the J. Paul Getty Museum. I've been in the art world for many years. One of the reasons to come to live in Ojai was because there was a tradition of quite radical and experimental things in the arts going on here at many times in its past. The Music Festival is the prime example. But it was also the home of Beatrice Wood and Pauline Schindler for some years, and people who were doing some very, very radical and experimental things, exploring new ideas in the arts. And when my friends began to organize an art festival built around an environmental theme, I suggested that Gordon Madder-Clark's wall of garbage that he had originally constructed for the first Earth Day in New York around 1970 and has since become one of the major artworks internationally to relate art to the environment and to environmental crises over the years, and has been recreated in Chile and France and Germany, and always with the major museums supporting that. Maybe I said we could try to do it here. And amazingly and wonderfully, the estate of Gordon Matter Clark gave us permission to do that. And we did, with a very inventive team at the mob shop, construct a version of the garbage wall that has this resonance for many people in the history of art, and that has a really provocative point to make about the endless accumulation of trash in the world. And that one can make art that provokes thought, that provokes interventions, provokes actions in social and environmental crises as we now face. It seemed right for Ojai, for me, to do something that was a little bit offbeat and a little bit radical and might disturb some people, and to make the point, too, that art is not always comfortable. It's not always something that you have to like. It can be something that some people like and some people don't, and the debates are good, too. It created a huge stir because the piece is so well known and because the work of that artist is so well known, and the fact that we were doing it in a small community and not under the auspices of a major international museum was really exciting for everybody. So the estate, people from the estate came here from Ireland to bless the piece when it was put up. UCSB organized a program, an all-day program that ended with a film of the original wall of garbage being constructed by Gordon in the 1970s, 270 people in the audience for that. And so an enormous stir was created by this piece, and passers-by, I've seen them, people bring children by to look at it and to speak about it. We had some participation from the schools in constructing it and so on. And I'm not pleading that it stay up forever. I don't think that was ever our intention anyway. And I think the only point I wanted to make was I think it's important to be tolerant of such things happening. And as we move into another Ojai Art Festival, we may want again to place some things that are rather provocative in rather visible spaces. And we think that's in the spirit of this town and its history. We think it's in the spirit of openness that this community represents. And we'd love to think that, though we may create some opposition and some outcries, that we can do it again. So I think the point is not to say, let's keep this up forever. The point is more about, let's make sure that we don't put obstacles in the path of things like this. This happens to be a major internationally significant piece of work. And some of the other things one might do over the years may not have that stature. We still would hope that they'll happen and that we can do things like that, just as the music festival performs very strange music in the park, and people have grown to love it. So we want people to grow to love the things they may not like at first, open minds, open thoughts, open ideas. And we thought it was a stunning success, and we don't want planning protocols to get too much in the way of this kind of thing. I think that's the only case I wanted to make. I'm sure you've got more things you want to say, Chris.
Okay, thank you. And then we have another speaker on the same topic. And Chris, help me with your last name. Ridke,
yeah. Yeah, so we're somewhat in a bind. I mean, I have to admit, I'm starting to understand how these things work here, and I understand that we didn't get this on the agenda, so you can't speak to it and you can't act on it or anything. But we wanted to make you aware of this, and that we're somewhat in a bind. So I was in Europe for 4 weeks. I got back on Monday. There was an email. I mean, I check email every day, so they sent it on Monday. But there was an email that we have to take down the garbage tower at the mob shop on Tuesday. And of course, I understand, and I did drop the ball on it, because the thing is that our permit had expired about a month and a half ago, and so the permit that allows that piece and the other pieces were taken down immediately after the festival. But this piece, somehow, I have to say, it just completely slipped my mind. I never thought of it, that it would be a problem, and I thought it belongs to the mob shop, and it's their thing to worry about and to do with what they want. But as I found out on Monday, of course, it's not the case. And so now we're somewhat in a bind, because as Nick said, this is an important piece. It is something that means something here, and now, do we take it down? And then how do we take it down? We can get maybe a demolition team. The thing weighs 3,000 pounds, with jackhammers to maybe spectacularly tear it down, and we can document it. That might be fun. Or we can get a forklift and maybe move it to the back of the mob shop. Anyway, so I just wanted to make you aware of this. I understand that because of the time and that I dropped the ball on this, that I didn't get on the agenda on this and so forth. I just wanted to make you aware of this, what's happening. I don't know what that's going to help or what it's going to do, but I sent an email to Ann, I forget her last name, she's with the Planning Commission, on Tuesday, asking her for a little more time. So I haven't heard back from her, I guess because of yesterday, she's been busy with other issues. So anyway, we just wanted to bring this to your attention, and I guess I'm just waiting to see what Ann has to say, and then we'll just have to do what we have to do, but we just wanted to bring this to your attention.
Thank you very much. This is rather new information for me, and I don't know, I'm assuming for my fellow commissioners as well. And this is not agendized, but I would ask our staff liaison, Mr. McCleary, if it would be all right if I asked a question for clarification?
Yes, and I'd also like to make some comments, too,
Yes.
before we get too far along.
Because I'm not real clear. Is it the Planning Commission that you received the permit from?
It would have been the planning department, sorry.
Planning
Yeah,
Department?
I'm not
Okay,
all
then
that
there's a
familiar with
difference.
all the terms and how everything is.
Planning Department sent,
yes.
you originally got a permit for the sculpture from the Planning Department.
Not only that sculpture, but it was a blanket permit for any sculptures that we would
For the
put up. I mean,
project.
all of our sculptures were pieces were on private property, but it was because they were visible from public property that we needed a permit, and so we got a
I see.
permit, and it expired, I think, I don't remember exactly, mid-December, beginning of December, or something like that, just because, that was the time of our festival, where our festival took place.
And so you are in the process of asking the Planning Department for an extension while you make arrangements to have the piece removed. That's what
Well-
I'm getting, is that right?
Okay,
All
yeah,
right, thank you.
yeah.
Are there other questions? Steve, you said you want to make some comments?
Well, I always want to try to paint as complete a picture as possible so everybody kind of understands the process here. In terms of the current permit and the rules that govern that, that's not really something that falls under the purview of this commission.
Right.
Having said that, that doesn't mean that we couldn't look at something going forward in terms of, if there needed to be some modification of policy to make something like this more conducive in the future, that could be something that the commission could look at. But I think really what you're dealing with, Mr. Ritke, is the issue with the permit, with the planning department. And as much as even if the Arts Commission were to say, hey, we think it's wonderful, and we want to, even if we put it on the agenda and they discussed it and they, a recommendation one way or the other from the Arts Commission really wouldn't have any direct bearing in terms of the permitting and all that, because those are set by the municipal code, and the only way that you could modify or deviate that, there are certain things that the director can do, but, those are rules that are set basically by the Planning Commission and ultimately by the City Council. So it's not to say that this body going forward couldn't be a voice or an advocate for some policy change that maybe would make something, like I said, a little easier or foster something like this in the future, because I think most of us here in the room would agree that what you're trying to do is certainly beneficial and certainly fits in very well with the ethos of Ojai. And our artistic background and our environmental activism and all that. So I think you're kind of dealing with the issue with the permit right now, and I would encourage you to continue to work with Ms. McLaughlin and the planning department on that. And if there's anything that I can do to help you with that, I'd be more than happy to try and look at that. But again, we're not in the business of overruling or the planning department or those types of things. So obviously we do work with the planning department when we have issues that have to do with public art and the like. So and my understanding just for the group is they did go through, and I gotta say, often the case is it's usually you're talking about something gets done and they don't get the permits. Well, this is a case where they went through and they got the proper permit. So from a city official standpoint, I think I always try to take a look at a situation, if they're obviously being cooperative and trying to go through the right channels and trying to get the proper permits, that we should try to do everything we can to try to facilitate and make that as easy as possible. Having said that, and I don't have all the facts here in front of me, but I think you're correct. I think your permit expired at the end of November or early December.
Right. Yes.
And that was the agreement at that point, was that it would be up during that period of time. So unfortunately, once that has transpired, then we become the big bad guy, and we have to start taking enforcement type action. So I would encourage you to follow up with Ann.
Yeah, I did.
And if you don't get an answer from her, or if I can help you in any way, I'd be more than happy to assist with that.
Okay, thank
Could I
you.
just add very briefly?
Sure.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I think that's the main point that we want to get. It's not this particular incident that we're concerned about. It's the possibility of maybe a more relaxed policy on the
Sure.
part of the planning department as a whole towards such activities. If you put them up and suddenly they create a great stir, maybe the permit can be extended. Maybe there's some sort of flexibility about this kind of provocative art that may appear from time to time on the streets, and we'd love that to maybe be a discussion between the Art Commission and the
And I think that's a worthwhile
and I think that's the main
recommendation.
point we're here to make.
And
Yeah,
if that's something the commission wanted to pursue, we could certainly take a look at that.
good.
I think
Thank you for your
that,
time.
thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Yes, I think the subcommittee, the Public Art Subcommittee, it would be good for them to see what you can find out about what the policy is, because this is like temporary public art.
Yeah.
So when, we just finally got the public art ordinance tucked away, and now here's another aspect that had not come up that we can look into. So can we expect some kind of a report at a future time when you're ready?
Sure.
Mimi?
Well,
And
we are
Barbara's on that
we
committee
are
too.
now the,
Oh, we are
we have a committee of two.
Yeah.
Madam
And-
Chair, it might be best if we put something on the agenda for next time, if we're going to take some type of an action or a direction to a committee.
All right, let's do that then. Okay. And just to remind everybody that, I think when you speak, you have to press this little pad, and the light gets brighter, and then that way it goes into the, for the television. Otherwise, they don't hear you. And then when you're done,
I
you
have a
press
quick-
it again,
I
and
have
it
a
clicks
question.
off.
Do we have your contact information? Do we know how to find you?
Well, it's ojaiartfestival.com, there's all our contact information there. I don't know if I can
Okay.
maybe give you I have a card here if I like, with my phone number and.
Okay, that would be good.
Pass that to me.
Thank you
and
very
email
much.
address and everything.
And so maybe we could just get together and have a conversation.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that'd be good. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
This leads us to approval of the minutes of November 21st. We did not meet in December.
I've noticed a couple of things.
Okay.
Under art acquisitions, Steve, it says Commissioner Moore said 3 pieces will be reframed this fiscal year. That's actually not correct. We had selected 3 pieces by the last meeting to be reframed. We intend to reframe everything that we need to in the permanent collection. So we're starting with the first 3 pieces. So I would say the
Oh.
first 3 pieces have been selected for reframing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then also under awards, it should read Commissioner Addison, not Commissioner Moore.
I'm sorry, give me a second to catch up here. Under awards, at the beginning, thank you.
Also under awards, Khaled's name is misspelled.
Oh,
Is
good
an
catch.
H,
H.
K-H.
KH, okay, thank you.
ED or ID? I think it's ED.
I think
I
it's
think
E-D.
it's ED.
Okay,
K-H-A-L-E-D. Pretty
Okay.
sure.
okay.
Easy to find. Any other corrections to the minutes? Well, and then the last sentence should read, "He asked,"
Oh, thank you,
and
Yes.
to forward to him.
thank you.
Okay. Good catches. Thank you. Give you anybody else a minute? Need some more time, or are we through it? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved as corrected. And we'll move on to committee reports and action items. Public Relations, website, media outreach. Commissioner Harmon is not here. Does someone have anything in her behalf? Or shall we go to the next one?
I wanted to mention very briefly for the commission that I did get a phone call from Commissioner Harmon late this afternoon, and she regretted that she was not able to make it, but she was not feeling well.
So no report there then. Art acquisitions, Mimi. We are in the process of reviewing the entire city collection and selecting pieces to be rematted and reframed. And as I said a few minutes ago, we've chosen the first three, and we're just kind of doing it in stages because we need to be sure we stay within our budget. And we'll just move through until we've completed the task. That's basically what we're doing right now. Very good. We're very excited about that. Anybody have any comments or questions for Mimi? Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go right on to Barbara, Arts Ojai. I think it's time to start the process again. Tell us about that.
Well, we're having a bit of a slow start to the new year. But the first thing that we're going to work on is our film series called Second Saturdays. And I think we're going to start in March. And I have a list of the dates. And we have to decide whether we want to do this every month or whether we want to take off the summer or, whatever. But we'll come back next month with a full schedule. And we are going to continue with the PBS Art 21 Contemporary Art Series at 11 o'clock on Saturdays, the first Saturday of every month.
And what's happening the second Saturday? Now I'm confused.
I mean, the second Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Saturday.
All right. Second Saturdays.
Yeah. We will be starting our new process again. What was the date of, how was that scheduled last year?
I have my Art Ojai folder right here. And maybe you can.
So we'll probably begin by inviting artists who are interested in participating in our Artist Student Mentor Program, which was so successful this year. And that's the first thing that we will do. We have a budget this year of $4,000. We'll be able to accommodate 4 students and 4 artists. So we will be starting this next month, actually. That's it.
Thank you, Barbara. And next,
We have awards, and that process actually begins tonight, where we have a discussion about those individuals who've been nominated as possible candidates for Lifetime Achievement in the Arts. Now, Michael Addison is the chair of that committee, and he's not present. Is there anyone here who can start us on the process?
Let me get the list up here. Basically, the awards committee has selected Linda Taylor, Ted Gall, Karen Lewis, and Khalid Alwar for Lifetime Achievement in the Arts. And then we're also taking suggestions for the Hope Frazier Award, but that won't occur tonight.
Would you repeat the names again?
Sure, there was Linda Taylor, Ted Gall, Karen Lewis, and Khalid Alwar.
Spell that, please.
Khalid, capital.
Oh, Khaled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were making a joke.
I thought you said Holly. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's Khalid, but
Okay, like Holly. Okay. Okay, so on the calendar, the nominations and discussion take place in January, just to kind of bring us around to how we've done it in the past. And in February, nominee packets are distributed, so we all have information on who the 4 nominees are. That would come to us next month. And then in March, we finalize the nominations and vote in April on who we're going to select. It seems to me this is awfully drawn out.
yeah.
And that the committee might want to come back and truncate that a little bit
Right.
to be maybe over 2 meetings. I just put that out there to talk about it. It's your committee meeting.
Madam
I
Chair,
don't know why it has to start 4 months ahead.
Sorry, if I could just add a comment at this point. It's certainly within the pleasure of how the commission wants to proceed. We talked about having the city attorney reschedule his presentation on the Brown Act and all that stuff for the February meeting. So that makes that agenda pretty tight. And I know there was one other thing that we wanted to do in February as well. So I just throw that out there just for the commission to remain aware, just so that we don't get too loaded up, or if you want to try to keep the February agenda lighter and more focused on that. I don't know if you want to.
When is the appropriate time for us during this meeting to suggest modifications to next month's agenda?
We have an item towards the end. We can do that under the commissioner comments.
Okay, so everyone, why don't we talk about what we might want to have on next month's agenda at that point in our meeting, so we can all set that agenda together. Okay? All right, thank you, Steve. Good reminder. Okay, we're having very short meeting, very short committee reports tonight. This is not usual. City Gallery, which is the committee that I chair, I just am going to ask Mimi to please give a little background for the viewing public in particular on Gino Hollander and encourage people to come out. This is an incredible exhibit.
Gino Hollander is really a fascinating man. He's 90 years old. He still paints every day. He's had the most incredible life. He carted his family off to Spain when they had 4 children and one on the way, and literally $600, and proceeded to build a life for the family there, and he's a self-taught painter. He left New York with the idea of just, focusing on his painting and teaching himself how to do it. So he's a fascinating character. And he's painted now for over 50 years, and he's still painting daily, as I said. So, and he's been in Ojai for 5 years, and he's little known in the area, although he is an Ojai resident. He's a little underground in that he doesn't really appear in public anymore. He has a very badly damaged lung, and he stays away from groups of people because he's very susceptible to pneumonia. So that was his choice not to have a reception, especially this time of year. So Roger and I went to the studio, and we just sort of selected an overview of his work from maybe, we probably have examples here 15 years back to the present. And so basically it's a survey of his imagery. He does not like to discuss his work. He likes to leave it to the viewer. He thinks that there's a dialogue between the viewer and the piece, and it's up to them to draw their own conclusions about what the imagery or the surface or the texture or the color means to them. And it was so much fun going to the studio, wasn't it, Roger?
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah, so I'm kind of sorry he's not having a reception because he's such a character. He came over, I brought him over 2 days ago. Steve met him. I mean, he's just the classic painter, isn't he? I mean,
Yes.
he's sort of covered with paint from head to toe.
Yeah.
And makes no apologies for his appearance. And he's just great. So that's our current show.
Yeah, I might add also that he's in international museums all over the world, and his private collectors are people like Jackie Kennedy and Burt Lancaster, and it just goes on and on, like iconic figures from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So he really is fascinating. We have a list of the collectors hanging on the wall there, and it was both kind of fun and amazing. So.
And I think I read, was he on ski patrol in World War II and he was injured? Which I never even thought about, ski patrol in World War II.
No,
He sounds
there
like a
was.
fast, I wish I had met him. I'd
They
love to meet
trained,
him.
they were the 100, I'm not saying this is not accurate, but it was the Mountain Division, and they were trained in Colorado. So there are several of the old, salty guys from the 40s still around. And they were, parachuted into the mountain areas during the war.
Well, thank you, both of you. Once again, an incredible exhibition. I love them all, but when I walked through this one, I was having conversations with these paintings. And let me just say, we're happy to see Savara Lara here, our city council representative. And we're live on TV tonight, Savara, so you might want to come up and join us at the table. We're happy that you're here. City Gallery is not prepared to pass out a calendar at this point. There are still some artists that we're not sure are going to accept the invitation, so we don't want to announce who they're going to be until we know that they're on board to actually do that. And I don't know, Mr. McCleary, according to the Brown Act, may I pass on the information to my two committee members, or do I have to call a meeting and have it agendized?
No, it's fine to pass along
I can pass that
information.
on. I wasn't
Absolutely.
sure.
Anytime.
Don't want to go to jail. Okay. And we'll talk a little later about how we're going to be tutored in the Brown Act next month, so. Yes.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Hirsch.
What are the criteria for being selected for City Gallery? Is there a criteria?
I wouldn't say that there's a criteria per se. I would say there's a process. And the process is that Mimi and Roger and I, who serve on this committee, visit as many artist studios as we possibly can in the fall. We take advantage of the Ojai Studio Artist Tour, although that is not the only places that we go and visit. We also go and visit studios on the detour, as well as other names and places that have come to us because we advertise with each press release that artists can contact us if they want to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we visit all the artists, we meet. It's an open meeting. We meet. I'm glad you asked this. This is what we do. we meet, we get together, and we talk amongst ourselves about who we think would make a good slate. We're looking for having very different kinds of work go up. We try to, since this time we're having somebody who's kind of wild, abstract expressionist, next time we might have something that is very realistic and naturalistic to make a balance of what is hanging. So it's basically a process rather than criteria. Certainly, when we are looking in those studios, we're looking for work that would line up with the principles of art that the three of us are familiar with from our own expertise. You know, balance, form, color, all of it. You know, there's a million zillion things that make art. And so we're looking for all of that. We don't even touch the number of names that we have on the list that we have. There's just so many artists that we would love to have here. And there's 6 a year, so the exhibition runs for 2 months, and then another one comes up. And we do it a year at a time, so that we know ahead of time who we're going to be seeing. Once the artist is selected, then we call, and we ask, would you be interested in? Most of the time it's a yes, because they've already let us know that they'd like to exhibit here. So it's just a question then of what dates will work for them. Sometimes they have other shows, so it can get a little, that's what's happening this time with some of the names. They have other shows, and so we're going to have to swap a few little spots out. So that's the next thing that happens. Then I'm going to give you the whole thing. And then after that, Roger, Mimi and I take turns. So we each do 3 a year, and Roger will go with one of us to the artist's studio, and together with the artist, we curate the work, what will fit best in this space. Now, Roger has actually done to scale drawings of the space and knows exactly how many paintings go on the wall, and he's got, it's unbelievable how he's got this all mapped out. And we're able to actually say, these are the pieces that we want. Sometimes there's framing that's involved, so we have to do that in time, timely, so that if an artist has to frame something, that can get done. And then Mimi or I, whoever happens to be there, will interview the artist, take notes, get a bio, get background information, get an artist statement, try to get a feel. And then our job after that is to write up the press release that goes out to the Ojai Valley News. Roger gets titles and prices, and as you know, makes incredible professional-looking labels for all the work. Roger does all our hanging. He's got, it's professional. The whole thing is just, if you have not been to City Hall to see these shows, I mean, it's like a little gem right here, free to come and stop by on your way somewhere. You can come see these exhibitions anytime that City Hall is open for business. Just ask at the front desk which corridors the exhibition is. Please keep in mind, if you're coming, public, that people here are working. This is happening in a workspace. But they'd be very happy for you to come and take a look at the work that's up. You may or may not be able to get into this chamber to see this work. It depends upon whether or not someone is able to open the door for you, or this area is available to the public at the time. I don't know if the camera tonight can get a picture of the horse or any of the art pieces from Gino Hollander, but if you can, put that up there.
Madam Chair, if I could just really quickly add, we try to accommodate as much as we possibly can anytime we have any visitors to City Hall. And so we really take a point if somebody comes in and says that they're here to look at the art. Everybody knows that we make a point to let them know that there is art down in the council chambers, and we make sure that the doors are unlocked and that they have access to that, because we recognize that would very easily get skipped over, and often some of the best pieces are here. So I think the staff here is pretty well trained now to know when we have somebody coming through to bring their attention to the chambers and make sure that they are aware of these pieces as well.
Love that.
And of course, and very rarely do we have things going on here during the day when we typically have visitors. On occasion that happens, but quite rarely.
And then I want to add, too, that the artists who are exhibiting with us sign a contract, and 20%?
15.
15% if they do sell, and we do have artists that sell pieces, sometimes very successfully. If they do sell, 15% of that goes into the Arts Commission Public Art Fund. So it comes back to the citizens of Ojai in that way and helps build our fund for public art. So the contract is signed, and that's our process. Does that answer?
One more, very good answer. But one more thing. After the show is over, all of this is detailed on our website.
Oh. Yes, that's wonderful. If you go to Arts Ojai or even to the city website, there's a link. The Arts Commission has a page, and all of the past exhibitions for at least the past 3 years, if not longer, are archived there, the photographs of the artwork as well as the press release that was put out at the time, so you can see who's already exhibited here at the gallery. Absolutely. And we encourage artists out there, if you don't think you're on our list, you can email me, you can email Mimi Moore. I don't know how to do that for the public on TV, but you can get the email off the website and let us know, and we'll add your list to our group. Because we're always looking for people who are new and have something to offer here. So, anything else from anybody? Did I forget anything?
No, I don't know.
My two
Well, we also indicate
conspirators?
in the newspaper, whenever we have a press release, we also at the end say that you're welcome to suggest people to show in our gallery.
And let's not forget that almost always, this time is an exception, there is a reception here that's held before the Art Commission meeting for the artist, and they have been very well attended, and there's goodies, and it's fun. Come on out.
And since we're piling on, and in addition to that, the chair comes to the council meeting after the show is first put up and gives a short presentation to the members of the council and those who are there to watch from the public to let them know about the new show, the artist briefly, and if there's a reception to be held. So yet another way that the commissioners work to get the word out.
Yes. And so that was done last Tuesday. Anybody else? Okay, terrific. That was fun to do. No one's asked that in a long, long time, so that was
a great
nice.
answer.
Yes. And then our next committee report is public art, and are we going to get an update on the public art code revision
Yes.
from you, Mr. McClary?
Yes. I think you all know that the public art ordinance, which we had been working on for a number of years, has reached the completion stage. It was adopted by the city council back in December. I have some copies here that I'm just going to distribute tonight of the ordinance. This is a composite copy that was generated by the city attorney. He put this together back in December in anticipation that he would be meeting with the commission at that time to talk about Brown Act and whatnot, and he was going to go through this as well at that time. But he asked if I could distribute this out tonight, and then as we noted, he is planning to be here at the February meeting, and we can ask him to touch on this at that time as well. So if you could please take one of those and pass that along, and I'll make sure that the other members of the commission who aren't here tonight will get a copy as well. And our city attorney, Joe Fletcher, will go over that at our February meeting. What else? The ordinance, of course, it was adopted on December 10th, and so it took effect 31 days after that. So we are now living and breathing and working under the new and revised and improved public art ordinance. So that is now the law of the land, so to speak.
Woo-hoo, finally, yay.
This is really exciting, because ever since I've been on the commission, I have been working on the revision of this document. Now, what are we doing with our notes?
Notes generally are not considered to be a public record, and so it's not something that necessarily needs to go through the disposal or the archiving process. So you are free to keep your notes or destroy them if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
If you want us to archive them, then we can talk about that too.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank all the members of the commission, but in particular, Commissioners Hirsch, Commissioners Moore, and she's not present, Commissioner Stinsmuir-Amond, for being such a strong guiding force and throughout this whole process. Of course, everybody on the commission had a big role in this, and I think everybody feels a sense of ownership on it, but I just wanted to particularly thank the efforts of those three commissioners. I know it was a lot of work, and I think we're all very, very proud about what the final result is.
Yeah.
So, and we're glad to have it done too.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay,
Steve.
thank you, Steve, because that needed to be said, the thanks to, in particular, the three people who spent so many hours outside of our regular meeting time working on this and tearing their hair out and, crossing out this word and adding another one, and only to find that it had to happen again and again and again and again and again. So I'll bet it feels good.
It feels very good. It was worth it. It was
Yes.
something that had to be done.
Yeah. Now we'll see how it plays. It'll be interesting. Okay, that takes us, if we're done with that, nothing else there, we'll go to art grants. And I believe the letters went out, Steve?
They
Talk
did.
about that, and then
And checks, probably, I don't know if checks have gone out yet or not, but if not, they'll be going out very soon. And letters have already gone out, so I think folks are notified.
Okay. I would like to suggest and I'm on this committee, Roger, you're the chair of this committee, I would like to suggest that somewhere in the application, when we go through and do the little tweaking for next year, that we indicate a time frame on letters going out and checks going out. I can't say inundated, but I did get hits on Facebook. I'm not a regular Facebook user, but I found that people were contacting me that way because I do have a page, and sometimes I can get a little active on that, like when a cell phone tower is about to be constructed near my neighborhood. So people are aware I'm on that, and a lot of questions came to me as to why haven't I heard, why haven't I heard, why haven't I heard. So if we gave a time frame somewhere that letters go out mid-January and checks go out, would that be helpful, Steve?
I think it would be helpful. I think the problem that we keep running into is, the action gets taken, and then, unfortunately, although it's not as much like it used to be, but, there's not a lot of slow times at City Hall, but generally around the holidays is one of the few times that, a lot of people are taking vacations. We tend to have, a skeleton crew. So, for a couple weeks there, we're more or less kind of in a holding pattern until we can get through the holidays. I always say that we're kind of the opposite of retail. When retail is busy, nobody's coming in City Hall, and it kind of works the opposite for us. So I think trying to turn around something at that time point is problematic. So maybe if we could adjust the expectations a little bit and let them know that they'll be getting something, in the first couple of weeks of January, that would probably be helpful.
I'd like to clarify. We actually do give a date that it says December 17th, all grant applicants to receive notification of application approval or denial. And so that's probably an unrealistic date in terms.
Unfortunately, it is, yeah.
So we need to revise that date. We did tell people, and that may have made it worse because people were saying, well, I should have been notified by the 17th.
I see,
Might not have happened, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
that clarifies it. Now I understand what was going on there. So that's easy fix. Yeah. And I think there might be a couple of little tweaks, but the process pretty much went really well. I know, if I recall, I don't know, but if I recall correctly, we are also going to see if we can't put this in a way that the application
Yes.
itself can be filled out,
Yes.
because we're getting
We talked about that internally,
Unformed.
and we will make that happen. Staff will
Okay.
make that happen, so if I could work with the committee on that whenever we have the application ready, we just need to take that extra step to make it so that it is a, can't think of the word right now.
Not right on, but
But you can-
writable, something like
Yeah,
that.
you can,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. But literally what, right now, it's a PDF form, and all that you can do is pull it up and print it out. And then people tend to either fill in by hand, or they try and put it in a typewriter. And then I think what we've also started seeing is people taking it and capturing the PDF and then converting that into a new document. That I think is problematic, because then we get different, all the applications are a little bit different, the formatting is not the same. That makes it difficult for the committee members and staff to kind of go through them quickly. They should be uniform. I mean, I feel pretty firmly about this. It's much like when you apply for a job, you've got to go through the steps that they have set for
yes.
you. The same, I mean, you don't want to make it onerous, certainly, but they need to follow through the steps that we are asking them to do in order to apply for the grant. And I think it would be good to even specify in there, you've got to do it on this form. Grant applications, can be rejected if it's not done on the proper form, so.
And let us also not forget that, I think it was Commissioner Hirsch who suggested that the name of the applicant, that there be a space at the top of every page for the applicant to write the name in. And a lot of that is to help us when we've got 20 of these and we're all trying to find the same information on that particular grant application, so that we all have that in front of us and we're talking about the same thing. And we just really need that uniformity. I'm glad there's a solution for that.
Can we add one thing to that? Under the applicant's name, the requested amount? I mean, I would like to see that. I'd like to
On
see-
every page, name, requested amount.
No, just on the cover page, and then in the appropriate
top.
part of, in the body of the request. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to be able to see the name and how much they're requesting, right off the top.
So I just want to make sure here. So the first page will have at the top applicant's name or name of organization, and then under that, amount requested, but not on every page, just the top.
Just a cover
That
page.
one, and then in the body of the application where you're.
Got it.
So that we could lay it out like this, one on top of the other, and have that information going across, would make it much easier.
I agree.
Okay, Roger, got that? Roger will make it happen. Roger and Steve, thank you. Anything else on art grants? Roger, did you want to say anything, or, okay. Budget update. Did we get a budget in our packet?
Yes.
We did.
Should be the last page.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I have
And,
a question
Okay,
about it, if I may.
sure.
Now, I'm not the mathematician in the group, but I
Oh, I see.
added up all the arts grants, and I came up with the full $11,000, but spent to date, it says $11,750. So I'm just wondering if someone else would do that math, and am I incorrect in my?
Oh, I can explain what is happening with that. And in fact, it's really more of a, I'll call it a trick of accounting, but what I need to do here, actually, I need to back up a step here, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it reminded me of something. We have not yet received to date the money from the Education Foundation that we're supposed to be covering the additional $250 that went to each of the students. And so that is why that is upside down right now, because we provided the checks to those students. And so what that is the $11,000 in arts grants, which are currently going out for folks for 2014. And then it also is accounting for the $750, which were the three $250 checks that were given to the students back in November.
Gotcha.
when they did their display. So if we get the money from the foundation that was indicated, we'll just cancel that out.
Well,
But just
Mr.
not going-
McCleary, why
yeah.
wouldn't that amount come out from Arts Ojai, since it's an Arts Ojai expenditure?
Because I put it in the wrong category?
Oh,
May I request that you put that in the
Yeah.
Arts Ojai category?
That'd be a
Because it would
good
just
suggestion.
flow.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say, Commissioner Hirsch?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was probably in a hurry and just threw it under grants for the report, but that's definitely where that should be.
All right, so it'll be moved.
Yes.
Any other question? Anything else from anyone else on the budget?
Yes. Have we sent a letter to the Ojai Education Foundation, or what do we need to do?
My understanding is that was handled by Vice Chair Addison, and I know we've made some follow-up attempts, so I'm not sure what is going on there.
I'll make a call.
Thank you, Chair Hirsch of the committee. That'd be much appreciated, and please let us know what the deal is. Okay, anyone else, any questions on the budget? Okay. Then let us go on. Tonight, we are going to have a discussion on the desired qualities of appointees to the Arts Commission. I'd like to just give you a little background of what's been going on at the City Council level. And please, Savaro, if you want to jump in here and add anything. But the process that is used to appoint individuals to commissions is being looked at very closely by members of City Council. They want to be very involved. They want the process to be fair. At the same time, they don't want the process to be intimidating. But they understand, because of the Brown Act, that interviews and appointments need to happen in public. And that has not been the case in the past. So this is really right now, right in the eye of the City Council. And I attended Tuesday night's meeting. It was like a mission meeting, and talked a little bit about the process that I'd like to use tonight with all of you, and suggested that they might want to piggyback on that and work in a similar manner, because I feel that by your letting me know what questions you think should be asked of anyone applying for the Arts Commission position, and letting me know what it is you think we could use to balance out this very important role that was taken on by someone with expertise in public art, that my role is to represent your wants and desires when that interview process begins. And when we're done with this, I will be compiling what you've said and sending it on to Mayor Strobel and Mayor Pro Tem Smith, so that they will know what the commission wants. And hopefully they will poll and find out what the City Council wants and send that information back to me so we can make some kind of sense out of it. Just make it follow. So with that as a overview, did you want to add anything, Savaro? Or?
I think you did a fantastic job. It did seem like a mission. And,
It did, didn't it?
but I think that it was just important to look at the overall view, because a council member was concerned how commissioners were being appointed. So at the end of the meeting, we decided, and I think it was Chair Goldman's idea, was to rotate in council members that interview commissioners, so that if there's an issue, and I think if I'm correct, and I'll double check with City Manager Rob Clark, I'll check to see if we decided to do that debriefing that you're going to do tonight, and just to see if we could get a consensus of what the council wants when it appoints a specific commissioner.
So that being said, why don't we start here at my left with Barbara, and we also have some notes that we can do at the end from, I think, Steve, you can read them, or I can read them, from Michael and Susan on what they would like to see. And I have a Brown Act question for Mr. McCleary, which is, am I allowed to contact Commissioner Harmon, who became ill and couldn't be here tonight, because I would like feedback from her as well? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, the issue with what they call a seriata or a serial meeting under the Brown Act would be if I'm a member of, well, actually, if I were to have a conversation with Commissioner Hirsch, and then I were to relay that information to Chair Golden, well, that would be okay. But then if Chair Golden, sorry, I'm not trying to make you the bad guy, were then to convey that information to Commissioner Conrad, at that point, we would be violating the Brown Act, because you would basically be sharing information between more than 2 members.
Thank you. So then we'll start with Commissioner Hirsch.
Well, tonight, when we were listening to the comments from our community, I thought that I'd like to have somebody with the experience of, was it Nicholas, I don't know his name.
I have
But,
it here.
I mean, I think that we need some really professional people on this commission, because I think we're going to be dealing with more building and with more public art issues. And that is the only thing that we deal with on this commission that has to do with law. You know, everything else we do does not. And I think, you know, many people could fill into that, but I think we need somebody really strong in the public art area.
Are there any particular questions that you think should be put forth that would bring out that sort of?
Why don't we
Just-
have
just the
this-
resume.
Can we have this as a discussion, and then I'll come back
Sure.
with that?
Absolutely. So, Roger, do you want to?
I think one thing that every one of our commissioners, like all of us, are artists or collectors or have other aspects in the arts, but I think we also have particular needs. You know, like Linda, one of her strong points of coming on was her publicity experience and her journalism experience. And so I think that whenever we're selecting a new person, that we really have to look at the needs of the community, besides just getting an artist, but to see who will fill those particular niches for that. So I think that each time it's not going to be just a type of person, but it's going to be a type of person that has a special skill that will complement this particular group.
That's exactly what I meant, and I think that we're going to have a hole in that area with losing Susan.
Yeah,
And
very
so
definitely,
that's what I meant.
Okay, right.
I agree with that too. I think it's important to have a balance as well, because this is such a diverse artistic community with, you know, the performing arts, music, drama, aspects of theater, film, and of course the public art aspect of it, and someone who is well versed in the process, the selecting, the machine that moves a public art project forward, I think is very important. And we have some of that already on the commission, but maybe a stronger emphasis, because I think losing Susan, who served more than 10 years, is a big space to fill. But that's visual arts, so I think we have to look at the makeup that we have now and see what what kind of person could fill that. I would also like to see somebody who's younger, because we're all pretty much contemporaries here. And maybe.
I may take umbrage with that.
And maybe the point of view brought in by a younger person could be refreshing and welcome.
I like that,
I do too. Love that.
yeah.
Well, just keep going here with, I don't think I have to recognize you each time, just.
Well, I think one thing is that basically we have only one person in the theater arts, and the theater arts is a really huge in Ojai. And also, we don't have anybody in the literary areas that would be kind of an advocate for things like that are going on. I think right now we're heavily weighted towards the visual arts, and as a visual artist myself, I don't mind that a whole lot, but it does seem like, particularly, I know some people are actually very good in many fields, and so, you know, like, I don't want to mention any names, but I know some people kind of float between various disciplines, going all the way from theater arts into photography or painting or something like that. And I think those people are always very valuable, and particularly to give extra feedback in those areas that we aren't covered as well.
I have one thought, and I've thought this for a long time, because the Arts Commission does a lot of different things and a lot of work, and everyone is putting in a lot of time. And I always thought that wouldn't it be nice to enlarge the Arts Commission? To have, you know, because we deal with so many different things, it would, I think it would be helpful to have another person.
Do we have to have an odd number? Because we have 7 now, don't we?
Yes, I would strongly recommend that you keep to an odd number,
So that would be making.
or else you always run into the
9.
possibility of having tie votes.
You have even longer meetings.
Yeah, I think that's a real tap dance. I like the number of 7, but we all have a lot of work on our committees. We all serve on 3, and we all do our fair share on each of the committees. And it does, depending on, you know, what the focus is at the time, get a little cumbersome from time to time. I'm so glad we have the ordinance finished. That was time consuming. I'm probably stating the obvious, but I think we should really explore the person's experience, their experiences, their background. And maybe that goes without saying, but I think that's really, really important.
Well, I'll add a comment about the time that's spent outside of meetings. I think that one individual who, how many have you hung, Roger? How many shows?
Well, I think it's approaching 40.
Approaching 40 shows. And Roger is here every other month from 9 o'clock in the morning until, I understand, you guys finished around 5:30 last time. Which is an incredible amount of work, and not a job that after you've done it 40 times is really like probably taxing your creativity too much. It's just pretty rote. That we go ahead and explore the idea of having at least an assistant for Roger, someone that he could train, that could come in, would not be a commissioner, because this isn't something that is taking any deliberation. It's just someone who would be trained in how to do the hanging and could take over that aspect of what you're doing. We'd have to figure out what kind of, it would be an internship, and they would be willing to learn that and do it because they would be learning a skill, or whether or not there'd be a little small stipend for that. But I think it's something that's worth talking about, because at some point, after 40 shows, we need someone else to be trained. What do you think, Roger?
Well, I think that's good, and also if I'm not available, that could be a problem.
But you have all the tools.
Right.
Got to share those tools, including some ones that he's made up that no one else owns. Yeah. Well, it's something to think about, and certainly City Gallery can come back with some sort of recommendation on that in the future, if the commissioners would entertain that. Okay. Well, I think I understand what you're all saying, and I concur with the need to have a niche filled that is being left by Susan. Before I go on, though, I want to read what Susan has said. She wrote an email and she said, to the commission, thoughts on new member to replace me. Knowledge of public art process, visual arts oriented, and is a practicing artist, designer, architect, gallery person, or art consultant. Someone younger in the community who already exhibits interest in enhancing the our art scene. I think she may have meant Ojai art scene. Someone who brings something new to the mix. Really like that. A person who is forward-thinking, has a sense of contemporary art, not just in our community, but globally, nationally. And someone who looks good and might behave well on TV. I think all of us would be gone if that were criteria. Like, adios. So those were Susan's comments. Does anyone want to talk about that, or should I go ahead and read Michael's?
I think
Well, wait,
we all agree.
I just want to say that having been in the position of interviewing people for our commission, even interviewing our own commissioners who were renewing their commitment, I found it to be a very valuable thing, and I think that it would be a wonderful thing to have before the public, because I learned a lot more about the individual, and it was a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, it will be before the public. That's a given at this point. Okay, anybody else on that, or I'll go on to Michael's comments? Okay. Michael wanted to let everyone know that he agrees with the main points of Susan's ideas, but he doesn't feel we need another visual artist on the commission because it's heavily weighted in that direction. He feels we need to broaden our focus, I'm quoting here, to include expertise from other art forms on the commission. I think we would be much strengthened and better represent the entire range of the arts in Ojai if the new commissioner were drawn from either the music or writing communities of artists. He says, I might add that this would also give us leverage when we seek city funding, as we could point out that with broader representation, we need the funding to enhance those areas that we also represent. Or as Michael put it, those areas under our aegis. Good. Comments on that?
Good points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of interesting in that the theater commissioner, we have only one, but for instance, most of our grants went to people in the theater arts. So in a way, we're covering those things. But I think in my comments, I also agreed with him that we are heavily weighted towards the visual arts. But one thing I would like to see with our grant program is to try to encourage more other artists rather than just theater groups or performance groups.
Okay.
I don't have at this time a calendar for when this is all going to happen. Steve, do you have any idea how we're going to go forward with the, whether or not we've even received any applications? Would you let us know?
I don't know that.
Has it been made public? It was way back in November or early December, but will it be
I would imagine so. I'm sorry, that's handled by the clerk's office, so I don't have that information in front of me. I'm sorry.
and follow up on that should be
So is your question is whether it's going to be re-advertised or?
that,
Okay.
and when will the interviews be scheduled?
Okay, I have not heard of a date.
Okay, so you can get back to us on that?
Yeah, I will ask Rhonda, the city clerk.
Okay. I also want you all to know that you may come to these, just as any member of the public can come. As commissioners, you also may come to the interviews. You can't comment, you can't ask questions, you can't participate in them, but you can come and listen.
So we will be notified when they're being held?
Oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely. Mhm. And you can come and sit in the audience and listen.
Yeah, I'll need to make sure of that. I don't know if that's being done
They talked
automatically.
about, didn't they talk about that last night at
I'll have
Tuesday's
to
meeting?
check. I don't know.
As I recall, they were gonna, it is open to the public,
Yes.
yeah, and anybody
They said
could
council members
participate.
could go to the council one, so I assume that,
I think I misunderstood, is that Commissioner Moore wanted to be receiving notice of when they were doing the
Well-
interviews.
It would be helpful.
I don't have
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't know that that is automatically being done. I certainly can be done.
well, I'll know, and I can
Right.
let them know.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we had a mechanism down.
Right, well, I would just,
Okay.
email could go out to everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And maybe with a reminder that
Perfect.
you are welcome to come, you can't participate, but you can be there. And then it comes back here, to our regular meeting for deliberation and selection.
So we do get input.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Am I
very
correct
helpful.
on that, Steve?
I'm sorry, I was not.
But after-
I have not seen the outcome of that. I don't know. I was
That's all right.
not at the meeting.
That after the interview process, that myself, the mayor and the mayor pro tem would be conducting the interview, will have a recommendation that will come back here, and then everyone, all 7 of us, get to vote on that recommendation, and then it goes to city council to be adopted or
I'll
to be
ask
appointed.
the clerk, in
All right, we're
addition,
not sure.
to confirm the process.
Is
Thank you.
is there any verification done on anything that's,
Vetting?
yeah,
I think we pretty much go with what we've been given on a resume. I
yeah,
think
well,
that-
I found that not to be a good idea.
I
Because
know.
I had to happen to have personal knowledge about something, and,
Yeah, I know.
you know what I mean.
I don't know at the level of a commission, interviewing for volunteers, that there is any kind of deep vetting that is done of resumes.
I don't
I think
believe
that there's
so.
some trust that anything that we get is factual. It is true that we did receive something where Barbara happened to know that the resume was not accurate. So, I don't know.
I think you're probably correct in your assumptions there. I mean, they're volunteer positions, and it hasn't been a highly formalized process in the past. I think this step that we're talking about perhaps allows a little bit more feedback from the commissioners, and perhaps to raise issues, if there are issues with background or credibility or whatnot. But yeah, I don't think it's been that formalized in the past. I think it's been a little more of a meet and greet and trust, and go from
Right.
there process.
So we all have a role to play, and it's a role that we play in public, is the bottom line.
Okay.
As it should be, transparency. Okay, anything else? I want to kind of summarize what I'm getting here, because I see kind of not a split, I don't want to call it a split, but I want to be clear, since I'm the one going to be representing all of you, that while at least 2 or 3 of you feel that we're going to need somebody in the public art field to fill Susan's role, somebody with expertise, that this is coming up more and more to our attention.
Well,
That is something we're looking for, but at the same time, we are not represented right now in the music or writing community, and that might be desirable, and that pretty much unanimously, we all agree it would be nice to get somebody younger than maybe the average age sitting here.
could I just mention that it doesn't necessarily have to be an artist who's doing public art. Could be an architect or an or, you know, an art consultant, or you know, a college-level teacher.
I agree.
Well, let's hope that we get a really wonderful, diverse group of applications for this, and that we're just torn between how we can choose amongst these incredible people, which I think will happen.
In the past, the commission has not weighed in on the recommendations, have they?
Yes.
They
Haven't we?
have?
No.
I'm not
No.
aware of that ever coming up.
You mean the actual selection of the?
Yeah,
We didn't vote
no.
on who was recommended?
Yeah.
It was
In
just
fact,
that
until the chair was included
Goodness.
in the process of the interview, I don't really think the commission had any direct role. It was not on the agenda for discussion.
So this is
It,
all good.
I was the first chair to,
Right.
Or am I misspeaking, and I'm thinking that this is going to happen this way, and it isn't? We need to find that out. I could be misspeaking. Maybe it doesn't come back here for a vote.
Well, it hasn't before, but I think it's a good.
I think it should.
I think so too.
I mean, I would like that as chair, to know that everybody around this dais has said, this, yes, we agree, this is the one, we like what we see here.
Make a quick comment, and I can't think of a way to set this up so that maybe it comes across a little more palatable. But I just would ask the commissioners to keep in mind, and I'm not trying to speak for the council, wouldn't try to do that. And I certainly think that the council finds the input and the advice of the commissioners to be very valuable. Having said that, I just asked for the commission to keep in mind that the council is looking for folks to appoint who are going to serve the council. So I think to a certain extent, we always have to remember that the commission is here appointed by the members of the council to not necessarily do the council's bidding, but to, complement the city in a way that the council members, see fit. So, not a perfect analogy, but it'd be somewhat analogous to having, the employees pick the boss, which is done sometimes in certain corporations, and I think that there is some value to that, and I think that's kind of what we're going through here. But I think at the end of the day, it's the council who are appointing persons that are going to help achieve the council's vision in terms of what they would like to see done in the community. So it it may not always line up exactly what the commission wants. I would say probably 95 times out of 100 it would. But, for example, you could have a change in the council, and council may say we really need to start seeing X, whatever X is, and that might be what they would be looking for. So just to keep in mind that the commission really serves at the pleasure of the city council and as an advisory body to the council.
But
If I
our-
may, Chair Golden, sorry
Please.
to interrupt. And I appreciate Mr. McClary's comments, because I think in general that is how it's viewed. And I think about 2 years ago was the introduction of having the chair of every commissioner sit in on the interviews. It was the first time. And I think that it was noted during that time that there was a disconnect between the council and a lot of the commissions. So that's why it was done. So we are trying to find a balance between having everybody chip into the decision making. And I really appreciate your comments, because just as myself speaking as no other council member, I do appreciate how involved you guys want to get in this election, because it really shows me that you care, that you pick the right person to be on the commission. And it is good for us to hear that. I don't know overall how the council would feel about the process, but maybe next time it's up for discussion, we'll keep that in mind. But I understand right now, the selection process is just going to be the chair and the two council members, whether it be the mayor or just other two council members. So that's what I understand. And the only other thing that I think changed as of last night was the attendance. We will be looking for attendance. So that was the only thing.
And maybe just a little clarification on attendance in a minute, but I want to stick first to the first point, but then we'll go back to the attendance thing, because that is good to let everyone know how that seemed to ferret out at Tuesday's meeting. I'm going to request, keeping, Savaro, your remarks in mind, I'm going to request that, Mr. McClary, if you would confirm or find out that it is not so, that we can informally, that I can, as chair, informally poll my fellow commissioners as to the nominees.
Well, that you run into the Brown Act issues there.
I mean, no, I mean at a public meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In other words.
Yeah, if it's noticed, sure. Yeah.
And for that to happen, though, as I'm thinking this through out loud,
Right.
for that to happen, the mayor pro tem and the mayor would have to agree not to act on the recommendation, right? Because then it would come,
Well,
there's a whole process thing here that isn't worked out,
yeah.
is what
And-
I'm kind of in my mind now. As I run through this,
Right.
it's very foggy.
Well, let me get some clarity from
Could you?
the
Yeah.
clerk. Again, this just happened Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And and I know there's going to be some memos going out
Yeah.
to the
But this is a
commissions
brand
and the
new
commission
question, though.
liaisons. Right.
It wasn't attended to, and it's, is there a way for the chair of the commission to involve the rest of the commissioners, not in the interview process, but in being behind a particular candidate? Do you all know what I'm trying to say? You know,
I think it's important.
I mean, I want your thumbs up, you know, that we're doing what you all want.
Well, I just want to add something with all due respect to the council. You know, they can't be all things to all people. And, you know, this is the Arts Commission, and yes, we do serve them, but we would want to be in a position where we felt that we were the most qualified to make the decisions on their behalf. And I'd like to be able to weigh in on who that person might be.
Well, I think also historically, all the commissioners since I've been on the commission have basically been recommended by another commissioner and then ratified by the council. So, and I think it's, since we're in the arts, we know what we need and we know people that we can recommend, where people from a different background, I would think would appreciate getting a recommendation from another professional in that area. So I'm not sure that that's short-circuited now, in that we can make recommendations of people, or we can also encourage people to apply also.
Well, certainly individual commissioners can always encourage an individual to apply. And I think individually you could even contact council members or come and speak at a council meeting and indicate that you're speaking for yourself. And you could share your comments at that time.
Well, I don't know if this is going to sound crazy or not, because it's just coming right off the top of my head, but is it possible that we could, there'd be, I'm assuming, some end date for applications,
Right.
that happens, and that after that end date, at the next Art Commission meeting, the applications could be distributed to all of us, and then, and this would be in public, a recommendation could be made, if those, let's say they go in the packet for that month, so that people could read them ahead of time, and then at that meeting in public, everyone could say, this is the candidate we would like you, Chair Golden, or whoever the chair happens to be coming up, Chair Addison, for example, this is the candidate that we would like you to pay most attention to, or that we feel strongly about. Now, the interview hasn't happened yet, so everyone has to understand that that could change things. I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head. Trying to figure out, how to get everybody involved.
And again, I'm feeling a little, like I don't have the ammunition here because I was not at the meeting. Was not able to go to that council meeting. So I'm not exactly sure what the outcome was, Councilmember Lahr, in terms of
If
the
I could
discussion on
chime in,
that.
Mr.
Please.
McClary, I think that it is really important. It's always a balance of who we recommend, and we would like everybody to be involved. And I think that was the whole point of bringing this up, because a council member didn't feel like the process was representing the whole council. So I think that that's how the discussion started. She wanted to have an open session for every commissioner that wanted to apply for whatever commission, or every applicant to apply for whatever commission. And that was, she wanted to see that happen, and have the interview happen in open session where people could see. But in general, I thought it was too onerous. Not only is it going to take a lot of time, it's just, we felt as a whole that it was going to scare people off if we did it in that fashion. So we decided to keep generally the same format with switching council members. And if the mayor chose to be on all those subcommittees, she would, or he would be allowed. And so in essence, we are keeping the same way, the chair of the commission and the 2 council members. And I think, I'm not sure if we implemented what you're doing tonight, is getting advice on your commissioner, what you're looking for. I think it's a little difficult to choose if you're not in the interview. And I think that it would just become, the process would just, I think, would be too much. And I personally think that I trust my 2 council members and then the chair to make the right decision, knowing what is the best interest of the commission. And I do appreciate, and maybe we should have done a better job in getting the commission's input on this matter, but it just started with the whole process that this particular council member thought it would be better if we interviewed in open session.
So, and I understand that. I'm talking about something I think a little different. I'm talking about something that would happen within the Arts Commission that wouldn't involve interviewing any of the candidates. I guess basically the question is it appropriate for everyone to receive copies of the applications so that at an open meeting, they could give me feedback on those applications? They're not here.
I don't think it's necessarily a question
here.
of appropriateness. I think it really comes down to a question of what process the council wants this selection to follow.
Because they're not making us, that's where I'm kind of losing what the response is. Because it isn't about it's nothing to do with all 7 commissioners being involved in the interview or making the selection. It's just a way for them to give feedback to the chair, whoever the chair happens to be. And I'm looking for a way to get feedback from the fellow commissioners. And so that's the question, is actually having the applicants' resumes way over the top?
Well, all of this, what you're describing, all is technically possible. It would certainly add some steps, and if you're, you'd have to have the deadline, and then you'd have to, coordinate the timing of getting that to the applications to the group. To long story short, the process is going to be what the city council wants it to be, and I'm not taking a position on either way here. The commission, and I mean this sincerely, the commission can either individually or as a commission continue to make recommendations to the council on how they would like that process to change or go forward, and the council is free to consider those and implement them as they best see fit. So I just, I don't want us to get going down a path where we're putting something on an agenda for the next meeting, and then, but
Can't do
the
it.
council has already gone forward with their, you know, what they want to go. Having said that, I'm never going to be here to say that the commission can't talk about something or discuss something. It, certainly that falls under their purview, and we could certainly put that on for a future agenda item. It seems a little, not cart before the horse, but a little backwards if you know, if you don't have that direction from the council to be doing that.
Got it.
But again, having said that, you know, if it's something that the commission feels strongly on and wishes to discuss, I would imagine that the council members would be more than willing to receive that feedback.
Okay. So then what we've done here in polling each other on what we're looking for seems to be the way that your input will be reflected through that.
I would like to say one thing, that basically we're not just selecting individuals, we're building a team. And I think it's really important for us to discuss these things and have it open with the group, because, you know, it's not just an honor to be on the commission, but we need to be able to function amongst us. And I could see something happen if, you know, nobody had feedback into it, that it might not work. And, you know, it's like if you're setting up a football team, you don't just pick people you like, you pick people that have particular skills that can handle the situation and work with other people. You know, like you can't have somebody on a team that's all out for glory and doesn't work with the team or whatever. So I think it would be very important for us to have some discussion, just like we do with the awards that we give, or the artists that we select to put into the gallery.
I'm not going to agree or disagree, because that is not my position to do so. I think you have your council liaison here, and I think he's listening carefully to everything that's being said. You know, and again, if the commission wants to discuss this further and bring some type of recommendation to the council to modify the process, that's certainly within the commission's right to do so. And we'd be more than happy to communicate that to the council.
Well, let me just interrupt you. Would it why would it modify their process at all if we distributed applications to commissioners just so that they would know who applied, and perhaps rank order them based on the application, so that the chair going in would have some idea of who the person is that the majority feels would fit best? Why does that modify anything that the city council would be doing?
Well, aren't you adding a step before it gets to council?
Well, the applications end, and then at the next scheduled art commission meeting, those packets would have been distributed, that discussion would happen in public, and then the matter would move forward. Does that have to be approved then by city council to add
I'm
that
not sure
step?
if it does. I would defer to staff if that would, but I understand what Mr. McClary is saying. I don't know if that's going to modify the process or not, or if legally we need to do that. It sounds like we do, because it's after the interviews, we're adding another step
No, before the interviews is what happened.
before the interviews.
Yeah.
It would be a good question if, and I, again, what Mr. McClary said, if you guys really feel strong about it, I encourage you guys to let us know. And me personally, just speaking for my own self, I appreciate the feedback. If you guys want to have that conversation with us as a whole group, all the commissioners, all the council members, I would encourage that conversation to happen, that dialogue. But
Conversation about the process.
about the process. And then also, I just would like to keep in mind that we are planning on doing interviews on every open position, whether you're reapplying or you're not.
Yes.
So this is going to be applying to yourselves too. So just keep that in mind. We're just making the process universal.
Right,
So that's why it's not just new applicants. It's not just an open seat. It'll be everybody.
So then what I need to know from from you, the three of you, do you want me to pursue this line of thought, of interjecting a time for you all to review the applicants before it goes to the interview process? Do you want that to be pursued? How do I go about doing that? Do I try to get that on an agenda item at city council?
I would send an email to the members of the city council, and if you could copy the city manager and myself, and I would also ask that you copy the city clerk just to keep her in the loop as well.
Okay, hang on, I gotta get everybody down here. Email to members of city council.
Correct. Copy to the city manager.
Copy to Rob
deputy
Clark.
City manager and city clerk. Does that,
And to you,
yeah, does that seem
and to Rhonda.
logical to you, Councilmember Laura?
And Rhonda?
It seems to me that all those people, I don't know the process though to get it on the agenda. Would that start the process to get it on the agenda?
Well, I think you're making a request at that point, and if generally speaking, if a council member picks up on something and asks to have it on the agenda.
Because my understanding, to have an item on the agenda, you need 2 council members to agree. I don't know if that's necessarily, if that applies to a commission, making a recommendation to
know.
the council. Because when I was in the Parks and Recs Commission, I remember being told that we just had to make a recommendation to council and they would review it. That was my understanding, but I could be wrong. I don't know if we need to ask Rhonda or city manager how to get it on the agenda.
That'd be a better question for the city manager.
For the city manager, okay. And it's important for me to follow up to make sure that we're listening to you guys or to any commission, because I want to make that clear that you guys are an asset to us, and you guys are the professionals and the expert in these commissions, and we want to respect that. So
I will find out exactly what steps need to be taken to pursue that, and I'll do that. Take care of it. Okay, can we close that, or does anyone else have anything else they want to say? You don't want to cut that off. It's too important.
I was wondering one thing. It seems like we don't know who the applicants are, and so I think if that could be somehow made public, and then that could also indicate, like, since we could go to the actual interviews as spectators, that if we wanted to follow up, we could do that, and then we could actually formulate some kind of recommendation or go to the city council if we wanted.
I believe once the interview happens, it's, then the process isn't expanded, that any input has to be before the interviews. Once the interviews happen, city council, the mayor and the mayor pro tem and the chair are going to go forward with a nomination.
Right away.
So, yeah, because I wouldn't be comfortable asking them to do an interview and then let us all deliberate, because that isn't the intent. The intent is 3 people are doing that. But to get input ahead of time, so that I'm representing you well. So let's say there are 5 applicants, and what we did here was you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice? So when I go into the interview, I understand who it is you most, or you might, for example, at that conversation, you might say, please ask this applicant this question. You know, something that I might not think of asking, but that you would see and ask me to ask on your behalf. That's what I'm looking for in the process, is that I can get some input from you before I go into that interview. And then I will represent you. And at that point, you have to trust that I'm going to have listened and that I'd represent you, or whoever the chair is will represent you. That makes sense? Makes sense, everybody?
Well, I think
That's
also.
what I'm going to ask about.
Yeah, that there'd be, basically, like in Susan's case, we're just filling one position, and so various applicants are going to have pros and cons, depending on their background and everything. And so we could actually help you and say,
Yes.
well, I think in this
Yes.
particular case, this would
That's
really
it.
help the theater arts, or this would be really a good adjunct to our.
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Keep in mind, I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
no, go for it.
that this will again happen when your seat's up and you decide whether you reapply the same process. We want to encourage the same process. So we're going to be looking at the pros and cons and be getting questions. So I just want to make sure that we're not already have a preconceived notion before and not make it fair for a new applicant if we're going to be doing that kind of process. So
I think that's the fly in the ointment, is by doing that. And that's really a question, I don't know if that's a question for the lawyer, but I think that is the one concern I have about it is that somehow making it unfair to the applicants by having us indicate what we think is best prior to them speaking. So it's a tough one. But I will follow up on it and see what the procedure is for pursuing some kind of way to involve these guys.
I have one more question. Are you saying that when we come up for review, that that position is going to be made public and anyone can apply for that, and anybody can apply for that seat, whether we want to stay on or not?
that's my understanding. They started that process about a year ago. So, yeah, so when I was on the Parks and Recs Commission for like about a year and a half, and I got re-interviewed to see if I was going to be appointed again or not. And they opened it up, and they had many applicants. So it's a new process. They're trying to just to make sure they're following process and not just saying, "Oh, you're good" or "You're coming in." I think that's, in my understanding, that's what they decided before I got elected to be on the council.
And that happened when Michael Edison and I were re-interviewed this last time. It was open to the public. Anyone who wanted to could apply for those positions. It was advertised. There were no other applicants. But we were interviewed by the mayor and the mayor pro tem. And then those two individuals and I interviewed Michael. So that was done. And the change now, or the addition now, will be that it's broadcast, or that, I don't know if it's going to be on TV, but it's open to the public. Because that's two different things, open to the public and broadcast.
Correct.
I believe it just needs to be open to the public.
That's correct. I don't believe they're planning to
So,
broadcast.
and now let's go to the other part of this so we can finish it up, and that is the attendance piece that Savarro mentioned. There was discussion about numbers of absences, and it turned out that there was a difference in the number of absences for Planning Commission because they meet twice a month, and the number of absences for commissions that meet, as we do, 11 times a month. And the number has always been 3 consecutive meetings would require some sort of, I don't know, report. So they've changed that, or recommended to change that to be 3 meetings altogether throughout the year. If you miss 3 meetings, if one of us misses 3 meetings, that needs to be brought to the attention of City Council. City Council, however, at least my hearing of it, I think feels that they will have a very gentle approach to any particular reaction or step they may take if that is brought to their attention, that they will do their best to find out what the circumstances were. They recognize that somebody extremely valuable may have had some extraordinary circumstance in their life, and they don't want to just throw them out because of this attendance rule. So that they're giving themselves, am I correct, Savarro? They're giving themselves a lot of room to maneuver, but they do want it brought to their attention if someone misses 3 in the course of a year. So I don't think that's a problem for any of us, and we've all missed 1, or sometimes due to illness, it's been 2 or even 3. But I think we're pretty safe.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's awful hard to do this 11 times we meet, and you're only here 7. Okay, that was long. Any other comments or anything on that? Because we're getting toward the end here. All right, so I'll go last under commissioner comments. Anybody have anything?
Is this where we're going to set up the agenda for next time?
Mhm.
I'd like to put on the agenda the satellite art project with the library.
For which meeting?
This is February.
Okay. Just to keep in mind that when we were going to meet in December, we were going to keep that to a single item because of the length of the city attorney's presentation.
Right. Well, it was a double item. We did have one other thing. We were going to let the lawyer go first. Can we talk about that, Steve, a little bit, about what we have asked the lawyer to come and speak to all of us and explain to us how we're affected by the Brown Act, because there are so many twists and ins and outs and things that we can do and cannot do, and that it behooves us all to really understand what those things are. It sounds so complicated, but once you kind of get it under your belt, it really isn't. I've had to deal with it as a school administrator, and it's a lot of words and a lot of can'ts and can'ts and can'ts and can'ts, but it all boils down to visibility and transparency. So, do you want to say anything more about that, Steve? How long do you think he would take?
I don't know. I probably knew a couple of months ago. I'm not sure. I'd have to double back and check. It's probably about, I don't know, probably an hour and a half.
The whole presentation, hour and a half?
Yeah, I'd have
Wow.
to check. I'm not certain.
So if we want to if we want to leave that as a sole agenda item and hold everything else until the following meeting, that would be really nice. So we're not here until late, which we sometimes are. The other thing that we missed putting on tonight's agenda, and should have been put on tonight's agenda, it might be a good thing that it wasn't because we have 3 people out, which is unusual, is election of officers. So Mr. McCleary will have that on the February agenda.
Yeah, the code states, doesn't specify when it's to be done. So it doesn't state that we are supposed to do it in January. It states that it should be done annually.
Annually.
So I think we're okay.
So we're going to do that. So we have election of officers, which should be very brief. And I do want to make a comment on that. I really think it's important that the chair be rotated every year to a new person, so that you do it once every 7 years, your chair. And it's very doable for a year, and you learn a lot, and it's just good. It's just a good thing for everyone to take a turn up here doing this. So
It is good.
I think whoever the vice chair is knows that next year will be their turn, and we keep rotating it like that. Anyway, that's going to be my recommendation on it. So think about it. I've enjoyed every moment. I'm going to pass that gavel to the vice chair. So, Barbara, do you want to talk about the satellite art project next month, or you want to wait?
We can wait.
Okay.
I mean, it's just that it's a topic that I want to put on the agenda.
All right, so we'll have it on in March then.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner comments? Anybody else?
Well, I think it's important to be aware of situations like we had tonight with the mob shop and the art piece and the permitting, and I mean, it's the first I heard about it, and I think we need to be more on top of those kinds of situations. So, Barbara, can you and I is it okay legally for us to meet with Chris and the other man who spoke to just find out, what it is that they've gone through and what obstacles they're facing?
Is there a committee that has a designated
Well,
Well,
Subject
Barbara,
matter
you're
that-
on the
that-
Public
that's
Art
public
Committee.
art.
Okay.
It's public art.
So, yeah, I think, actually, we had talked about that, and we said we were going to put that on the agenda for February.
Well, we don't
to-
have to put it on the agenda, but I'd like to be informed. I'd like to know
Yeah,
what's
I
going
was-
on with that.
Okay,
Surprise.
couple
They're
things.
asking if they can meet,
I-
the
I-
two of them, without it being agendized. Have the two of them meet with,
Chris,
Chris.
and I didn't,
can they do that on their own?
Yeah, yeah. Just a couple things, and I'm not trying to be defensive here, but I don't necessarily know when the planning department is issuing a permit for something like that either. And then, I don't disagree in any way, shape, or form with what you're saying, Commissioner Moore, but that wouldn't be the standard procedure. So I guess what I'm trying to say in not a very cohesive way is, if that's something that the commission has an interest in, I think we should state that going forward. I guess I'm a little objecting to the criticism that the commission should have known that. Because it's not something that has been a regular course of business. It's not something that goes through my office. And it's not really something that, I mean, I'm not trying to make a point here of something absurd, but there are a lot of permits that get issued out of City Hall every single day, and to a certain extent, you could probably, obviously, the art ones would be of interest to the Arts Commission, but, I mean, there's a lot of other things that happen out there that affect a lot of different things.
I'm sure, and that
So-
wasn't, it wasn't meant, it was not meant as a criticism.
So
I just felt a little stupid.
Me too.
Hearing this, and I mean, obviously, it's, a big component of it is public art, and.
Well, I don't have all the information on it because, again, this was something that was handled at the planning counter.
Right.
But my understanding of it was they came in, they got a permit, the permit said they could put it up until X date. They didn't take it down.
Right, yeah.
That's the issue.
No, I understand
So,
that, but.
You know,
Right, I get
and
that.
then I got word kind of through the grapevine that he was planning to come to speak to the Arts Commission tonight, but he didn't contact staff or anything like that.
Yeah.
And of course, my first thought is, you know what, it's not really something that falls under the purview of the Arts Commission as it currently stands. I mean, it's.
But that's the question, should it?
But it's of.
That's
it's
fine.
certainly of
It's,
interest.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because, I mean,
Well,
maybe.
like I said, I'm not explaining myself very well here. I'm just stating that it.
I would like to clarify this a little bit. I was actually involved in this. Chris and the owner of the Mob Shop came into the museum yesterday, and they were saying that the city had told them to get rid of the sculpture. And so I suggested, and they were very upset about it and all that. And so I suggested one route would be to talk to you, and also, since they could come and give public comment at the Art Commission. And I thought it was something that we would be interested in following up on, because I really see this as an opportunity. These people are voluntarily putting art up in their area, and albeit that it's controversial, but that's also really makes people much more aware of kind of the art process. And they originally put it up as part of the Green Coalition tour that was going on, and so.
As I said earlier tonight, I do think that there could be a role for the Arts Commission to play in developing some further policy for something like this coming down in the future. It's just, I think it's, part of it is just people's misunderstanding of how government functions.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's an artwork thing, well, we'll go to the Arts Commission, because somehow they'll have pull over the planning department and the permitting. And it just doesn't work that way. I'm not saying that whether it should or shouldn't, but, you know, so I think it just kind of leads to some situations where people have expectations that things work a certain way and they don't really work that way.
Yeah.
And they think that they can show up at a meeting and not be on an agenda and somehow have the Arts Commission take action to overrule the planning department.
No, I told them that all they could really do is present their case and make
Yeah.
us aware of it. And,
Well,
I really.
And it's also frustrating when they really don't work with staff. They don't contact staff. I've not heard word one from Chris Ritke when he came in here 2 months ago. So,
Originally, well, right.
they come in, they communicate with somebody at the planning department counter, and I have no idea that they're coming in. We've never had any discussion with the planning stuff. It never got that far along, and then all of a sudden, they're out of compliance with their permit, and they're trying to run around and get things changed. I don't quite understand that as a staff member.
Well, I'm going to venture that they probably had no idea to contact a staff person or what to do. And it seems as though it might be a good idea for the Art Commission, Public Arts Committee, to think about, at least to think about, if not to fashion, some sort of procedure or process that could be taken that would include the Art Commission? If what is being permitted is a form of temporary
I
public
think that's
art?
exactly what I said earlier tonight.
Yeah, I do too. Do you like, did I reword it okay?
So I'm not arguing against that. And I'm
So let's do
sorry, it's late, I'm not feeling well, I'm probably being a little defensive, but this notion that somehow staff is going to know every single thing that happens in City Hall and know who to communicate that to, I'm sorry, it's just not practical. And you may have been surprised, and I was surprised, and quite frankly, whose responsibility is that? It's the person putting it up.
Who has some chocolate for Steve?
I'm sorry,
That's okay. We love you.
I'm probably being a little defensive here, but, the idea that somehow the commission should have known that they came in and pulled
Well,
this
we're on
permit. There's no process right now to automatically do that, and it's a bit Monday morning quarterbacking, because, there's a lot of stuff that happens here every single day, and, for us to start trying to figure out what everybody wants to know and what everybody doesn't want to know it's just not possible. There's just, the volume of it is just overwhelming. Anyways, I'm getting off track.
Well, can I just ask the question again?
Sure.
Would it be okay for Barbara and me, since we are what's left of the Public Art Committee, of the Arts Commission, to have a conversation with these two people about this specific piece?
I guess there's not really an issue with that. We had talked earlier, and I thought it would be more appropriate if we put it on the agenda for February to direct it to the committee, but I don't think there's any harm with going out and meeting and speaking with the individual.
Okay.
Then I would recommend that you do that. And bring a report back to us on what you find out at the March meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to.
Well, can I make a request on that? Can you involve staff too in that? Because,
Of course.
Great idea.
I just really feel that sometimes the commissions don't have the full picture on what's going on, and sometimes the staff doesn't have the full picture of what's going on. So I think it's really important that we get together and kind of compare notes at that point. I'm a little frustrated here and a little offensive. It's frustrating for me when somebody comes in and asks for something, they're given a permit, they're given a date, and then when they don't get it down, they're surprised because they're getting notices from the city that says you're in violation. And then suddenly it's kind of like, well, why is staff being difficult, and, why aren't we doing more to appreciate and support the arts? If, again, as I stated earlier with Mr. Ritzke and Mr. Olsberg, I think those are great suggestions, and I think that'd be a great the Arts Commission is the conduit to talk about something like that. If the current policy that we have is prohibitive, or it's designed because, when we build things in government, it's usually in response to something, in a reaction to something. Art is different. Art has different functions. And this is a great example. Typically, you would not allow somebody to put up something like that unless it was art. Because what would why would we allow somebody to come in and being over dramatic here, dump a bunch of garbage somewhere. I mean, we would not permit a business to do that. You know, I could just imagine that, you know, well, sir, we have a code enforcement violation, you have all, well, that's artwork. So, you know, I do think there's a role for the Arts Commission to play in trying to look through something, and I think that's a great suggestion. You know, again, we look at things in government and kind of, you know, well, it either fits in this box or this box or this box, and good policy development is recognizing that sometimes that's not the case, so we create a new box.
Okay, I think we've got it, and know what direction to take, right? So, I have down under Commissioner comments then that we're going to leave our agenda next month to be for the Brown Act and the election of officers, just those two items next month. Anybody else have a comment, commissioner comment tonight? Then let's go on to Savara Lara, City Council Liaison.
Thank
Report.
you, Commissioners, Chair Golden, staff for having me. And I'm here in place of Councilmember Smith, or Mayor Pro Tem Smith. She asked me to come because she couldn't make the meeting tonight. So it's always a pleasure to come. I think it's really important to have a representative not only from staff, but also from the council. And again, trying to formulate and keep a relationship so we could all understand each other and how to run the city in the best interest, and your interest is art. So I do appreciate it, and just hearing overall meeting, you guys always do a great job. I have to comment that the joint meeting we had was great. I was very impressed by the website. Absolutely blown away how interactive anybody could be and go and see what's going on in the valley. It's not just about what the city's doing, but what the theater's doing, what other people in the community are doing. That just shows how involved you guys are. On my end, just again, we had the dialogue about the whole process of commission, and if you guys do feel strongly, I'm sure Mr. McClary could get you the information and how we could put it on the agenda, or how the council members could listen and hear you guys out and have possibly a dialogue, whether that be an item put on our agenda or whether it be on our next joint meeting. Whatever it is, I do encourage you guys to contact us whichever way possible. Just like this last comment, I feel like if there's a misunderstanding and you guys want to get some clarity, staff should assist you guys to see what the policy is and what the mob shop done, but also have that open mind that there's always two sides to the story. So I do like to hear that conversation going. Couple of things that are coming up for us. Still, we're going to be hearing about the landscape ordinance in February 11th, and then another discussion item that we're going to be having February 11th that you guys could possibly have some interest is city council goals, is where we're going to be talking about our priorities of this year and what we want to get done. And I know last year you guys wanted assistance with the current ordinance that you just got for the public art program. So it just, I don't know what's going to come about that meeting, but again, if you guys have suggestions, I would encourage you guys to write to the city council or whatever it is. I know on our agenda,
Would you say the meeting date again?
February 11th. I know on our agenda, something that has been on the radar is neighborhood planning and trying to deal with that. I know that's a long-term goal for us, but I don't know if it could affect you guys in one way or another. As a council member, I would like to hear if it does, just so that, again, we make sure we complete something and touch on all the aspects of city. Some other issues we're going to be talking about is a building height limit. just some contracts, updating the lighting ordinance. And I don't know if there's any particular question you guys have about those issues, or I'm looking at my notes because I'm trying to see what would be interesting for you guys to, or what could possibly affect the art commission. But as far as I know, those are mainly the highlights. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me.
Well, I just like what you're doing. This is the first time that we've had a council member who has told us what is actually coming up and what we might be interested in. And I think it's a great idea to add to every, every visit with us.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys. And I appreciate your guys' hard work.
Yeah, ditto on that.
So if I'm understanding right, the February 11th meeting, the council's going to have a discussion
On what they want to address over the course of the coming year.
Yes,
So we don't really have an opportunity as an arts commission to talk about this. We don't have another meeting until after that. I kind of wish that we had known so that we could, maybe as a group, said the Arts Commission would like City Council to concentrate on this. Now, given the Brown Act, how can we make that happen? Darn Brown Act.
I think that's a question for the council and what the council wants. Are these the council's goals, or does the council want to involve the commissions in the goal? Do they want to involve the public in the goals?
I think
It's what scope I think the council wants to go with.
yeah, I think it does depend what the council as a whole wants, but talking about myself, personally, I always think it's better to hear more. I don't necessarily think that it's possible or practicable to get everything done, but it is important to hear what also our commissions are have in mind, whether that be, and maybe it's more has to do with budget, but it's always good to hear from other commissions about what and I personally just encourage that. But yes, Mr. McClary does have a good point that we are going to be discussing more than anything what the whole council wants to make priority. But I'm more about always encouraging dialogue and building that relationship. So.
And we did have an opportunity at our individual meeting prior to City Council meeting a couple months ago to let council know what was going on here. So, but obviously anybody here could go to that February 11th meeting if you have something that pops into your head. I don't think, since we didn't discuss it here at the meeting, you can do it as a city council commissioner, but you can as a citizen state what you're looking for. Thank you, Savaro, very much, and I so agree with Barbara. That was so nice to hear that, what's coming. That was great.
Yeah.
Steve?
Just briefly pass out, and I can make additional copies of this. This is a copy of the letter that went to the theater owner, thanking him for the Art 21 series. Just want to let you know that that has gone out. And then the only other thing that I really had to for the group, and I'll give this to Commissioner Conrad for his review, or if he wants a copy, I can make that as well. But it's the completion letter from Valerie Freeman for their Ojai Celebrates Chess event that was done for under the 2013 Art Grant Program. So we have the completion letter for that if you'd like to review it.
I'd definitely like to read it.
So you could pass that down. And if anybody would like a copy of that, I'd be happy to make that for you. That's all.
Steve, what about the issues here in our packet? We didn't really-
Did you turn on your speaker?
Oh, we did jump over that. I'm glad that you brought that up. There's nothing new here. What Commissioner Hirsch is referring to is item 5F, which is the public art status report. There's no change there. We're still waiting for the applicants to come forward on these two particular projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that update really should come under
The
a
public
committee
art.
report under public art?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We kind of
So
skipped
we don't have
past
to
it, and
add that
I had to
item.
make a
Okay.
mention of it, but then I figured I'd let it go since there really wasn't any new
Yes.
information.
And,
but-
and may I make a comment out of order too? That, just want to note for everyone that the reason Commissioner Addison is absent tonight is because of his involvement in Twelfth Night. And, you know, that I hope all of us are going to go and see the play and get the word out for him, that this is happening here in Ojai, this wonderful production. 12th Night at the Arts Center, yes. And they have a Sunday afternoon matinee at 2. And I think you have to get your tickets. Set in the Roaring '20s. They have a really wonderful YouTube
Yeah.
blurb
It's great.
that they filmed using our Lifetime Achievement in the Arts winner,
Kim Maxwell.
Kim Maxwell, sort of as the narrator. How many of you have seen it? It's just
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's really
Yeah,
great.
it's worth the 2 minutes to take to look at that.
I'm sorry.
It's filmed all over Ojai, different people. Did you see it?
As a preview to the movies, right?
Oh,
did
they?
Preview, but they show it at the theater. I mean,
Oh, they had it at the theater?
I think
Oh, cool.
that's what you're referring to.
Well, it's
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
On the internet.
Okay, I haven't seen it on YouTube.
Okay. Maybe if they're doing it in the theater, great. And that reminds me that we were going to ask if we could put up an advertisement for the R21 films on the commercial part of the theater thing. Just a reminder. That's it. Then I do say that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.